Some Chinese shun grueling careers for low desire life. This is great. This is the same conclusion I've come to. This is the conclusion that pretty much every herbivore man has come to. A lot of guys here. I guess it's almost misleading to lump it in with MGTOW because it's two different aspects of a lifestyle. I know some of these guys, these low desire life guys in China, are probably still dating. It's just they've left the rat race. Depending on where you live, you could very easily survive on a part-time job if you don't mind cutting your expenses to the bare minimum and still have just enough for the hobbies you care about. That's the direction a lot of guys are headed right now. A lot of men are like, why would I work myself into an early grave working 80 hours a week for this thankless corpo when instead I could work 20 hours a week and have plenty of time left to enjoy my hobbies and still pay all my bills? This is what I keep telling everyone who listens to me as well. Half of being able to retire early is cutting your expenses down to the bare minimum. It's not all about getting the most amount of money. It does help, but cutting your own expenses is great too. If you could cut your expenses to just $500 a month, for example, you could survive on minimum wage. So fed up with work stress, Guo Jianlong quit his newspaper job in Beijing and moved to China's mountainous southwest to lie flat. Yeah, that's another big part. You're going to have to move to an area with a lower cost of living. Guo joined a small but visible handful of Chinese urban professionals who are rattling the ruling Communist Party by rejecting grueling careers for a low desire life. That is clashing with the party's message of success and consumerism as it celebrates its 100th anniversary of its founding. Yep, it's the same in the US and Japan as well. The ruling government needs everyone to be working like 80 hours a week so they can tax them. And they also need them producing future tax slaves. So when people find out that they could live a comfortable life and not participate in the rat race, this I can guarantee you the Chinese government will take steps to go after these guys to the point of like knocking their social credit to zero if they do this. Guo, 44, became a freelance writer in Dali, a town in Yunnan province known for its traditional architecture and picturesque scenery. He married a Whammons he met there. So another thing I talk about often is if you want that white picket fence like family dream, you got to go to some third world country and stay there. Or like this guy did. You go to like a more backwoods third world segment of his country and stay there. The work was okay, but I didn't like it much, Guo said. What is wrong with doing your own thing, not just looking at the money? This attitude, it destroys the corpos and the governments that rely on these tax slaves. The lying flat is a resistance movement to the cycle of horror from high-pressure Chinese schools to jobs with seemingly endless work hours. Novelist Liao Zhengu wrote in Caixin, the country's most prominent business magazine. Exactly like what's happening in Japan. So here in the US, it's a little bit different since most guys move into this lifestyle as like a side effect of giving up on women in relationships. But in Japan and China, a lot of these guys do it for economic reasons at first. They got no free time. They're expected to always be studying, always be working. Like if you're a man, and increasingly for women as well in Japan and China, you're just expected to always be working or there's something wrong with you. And a lot of people, they just had enough of that shit. So they're just like, no, thank you. You can have your $80,000 a year office job. I'll take this this $30,000, just was it convenience store clerk job? I'll be fine. If you could do it full time, maybe you could make $30,000 anyway. Part-time hours, that's not happening. In today's society, our every move is monitored and our every action criticized. Liao wrote, is there any more rebellious act than to simply lie flat? Yes! We call that ghosting here. Just exit society. Make yourself as self-sufficient as possible and just exit stage left. That's the fatal flaw in communism as well. Well, one of the like couple billion fatal flaws is once people realize they'll be paid the same regardless of how much work they do, they all just go back to the bare minimum. Oh, why would I go through 8 years of grueling school and have a very stressful job as a doctor when I could make the same just being a cashier? That's the one thing these communists have yet to figure out, is how to force people to live up to their full potential. Because if you have the ability to do more, no one's forcing you to operate at 100%. If you can get by at 5%, most people do. It's not clear how many people have gone so far as to quit their jobs or move out of major cities. Judging by packed rush hour subways in Beijing and Shanghai, most young Chinese slog away at the best jobs they can get. So in this case, it's another similarity with MGTOW here in the West. It's actually to our advantage that most guys don't do this. Because if it's just a few people, the government ignores it. But let's say 70% of the population did this. Yeah, that would cause them to get their panties in a bunch. Still, the ruling party is trying to discourage the trend. At least they know it's happening. I'll give them credit. Beijing needs skilled professionals to develop technology in other industries. China's population is getting older, and the pool of working-age people has shrunk by about 5% from its current year -10 peak. Wow, that sounds like a whole lot of not my fucking problem to me. You guys are the ones that centrally planned all of this. Deal with it. Struggle itself is a kind of happiness, the newspaper Southern Daily, published by the party, said in a commentary. Choosing to lie flat in the face of pressure is not only unjust, but also shameful. Yeah, it's hilarious when shame is all they have. The trend echoes similar ones in Japan and other countries where young people have embraced anti-materialist lifestyles in response to bleak job prospects and bruising competition for shrinking economic rewards. Yeah, work twice as hard to get 5% less and be happy about it. No, thank you. Not doing it. The official data show China's economic output per person doubled over the past decade, but many complain the gains went mostly to a handful of tycoons and the state-owned companies. That is what happens, yes. Employees are more productive than ever, yet they're seeing less of that money than ever. Once you realize all your increased productivity is going into your boss's pockets and you're not seeing any of that, that's what makes most people stop. And this would be a very similar, simple solution, though. Profit sharing. Oh, hey, if you close this deal and make the company like $600 million, you get a percentage of that. That's suddenly going to motivate people to do their best work. If they just added commissions to certain things, this wouldn't be a problem. But as most people see it is, I'm going to bust my ass for 100 hours a week to close this $600 million deal for the company. And all I get for it is a pat on the back. Like I get some recognition at the company all hands meeting. If I'm lucky, I'll get a $5,000 bonus as a thank you, while the CEO pockets like 200 million of that. Yeah, no thanks. I'd rather put that extra work into personal projects. That'll get me way more in the end. Like, dude, that's what sank Marvel and DC creators. Imagine being one of these writers and artists that created multi-billion-dollar characters that other people are profiting from right now while you can't even get royalties. Not a mistake we're going to make here. So professionals say their incomes are failing to keep up with soaring housing, childcare, and other costs. Childcare wouldn't be a problem if, you stuck to the traditional household, but whatever. In a sign of the issue's political sensitivity, 4 professors who were quoted by the Chinese press talking about lying flat declined to discuss it with a foreign reporter. Yeah, they're worried for their social credit. Another possible sign of official displeasure: T-shirts, mobile phone cases, and other lie-flat-themed products are disappearing from online sales platforms. The whole point is ghosting. Like, you don't advertise that you're doing it. The urban employees complain the work hours have swelled to 996 or 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week. Soon it's going to be 7. We generally believe slavery has died away. In fact, it has only adapted to a new economic era. A Whammons who writes under the name Jia Bing Bao or Summer Hailstones said on the Douban social media service. I don't want to hear any woman complaining about this because this is what you wanted. This is equality. Because even before feminism, men actually had to routinely work jobs like this. But now that women's have to do it, it's a problem, huh? Well, this is what you fought for. You could have had an easy life just taking care of the household as technology makes household chores easier and easier. But no, you wanted to get into the workforce and do the same thing men do. So enjoy. Some elite graduates in their 20s who should have the best job prospects say they are worn out from the exam hell of high school and university. They see no point in making more sacrifices. Yeah, that's exactly right. Or imagine if you die early, too, before it allegedly pays off in the future. Because they all sell you on the prospect, like, oh, work yourself to the bone in your prime, and then maybe the last 5 years of your life you won't have to work. Gee. I'd rather take it easy now, if we're going to be honest, while my mind and body still work, barely in both cases. No, chasing fame and fortune does not attract me. I am so tired, said Zai Zhangyu, a 25-year-old graduate student. Some professionals are cutting short their careers, which removes their experience from the job pool. That's what I'm going to be doing next year if all goes well. That's what I'm going to be doing in my current day job. I do not want to stay in this fucking profession, in this industry, any longer than I have to. Zhu Zuanjiang, a human resources manager in Shanghai, said she is quitting at 45, a decade before the legal minimum retirement age for Whammons, to move with her Croatian-born husband to his homeland. Great choice. I want to retire early. I don't want to fight anymore, Zhu said. I'm going to other places. Yes! Why would you work yourself to the bone to stay in your country when you can actually retire with what you already have in another country? That's the attitude. I mean, see, that's what Toxic did, basically. I guess he's not retired yet, but compared to what he was doing before, it's pretty close. That's what I plan on doing. Why would I stay in the U.S. where I'm living on the lower end of middle class when I could retire in a few years in another country? Tough choice there, isn't it? Now, thousands vented frustration online after the Communist Party's announcement in May that the official birth limits would be eased to allow all couples to have 3 children instead of 2. Oh, and rumors are soon they're going to be banning birth control, I guess. The party has enforced birth restrictions since current year, minus 41. To restrain population growth, but worries China with economic output per person still below the global average needs more young workers. Now, minutes after the announcement, websites were flooded with complaints that the move did nothing to help parents cope with childcare costs, long work hours, cramped housing, job discrimination against mothers, and the need to look after elderly parents. Again, go back to one working parent, and that's not a problem. What childcare costs? No, this is the decision that my parents had to make. So when my mom was pregnant, her and my dad did the math, and they decided that it would actually save them money if she quit her job to raise me than if she continued working at her minimum wage job, and instead they kept paying for babysitters and daycare. Have you considered that option? Jia writes that she moved to a valley in Zhejiang province, south of Shanghai, for a low-desire life after working in Hong Kong. She said despite a high-status job as an English-language reporter, her rent devoured 60% of her income, and she had no money at the end of each month. Yeah, that's the illusion of a lot of these high-flying, high-paid jobs. Now, she rejects the argument that young people who lie flat are giving up economic success when that is already out of reach for many in an economy with a growing gulf between the wealthy elite and the majority. When resources are focused more and more on the few people at the head and their relatives, yeah, that's the big one, the nepotism. The workforce is cheap and replaceable, she wrote in Douban. It is sensible to entrust your is it sensible to entrust your destiny to small handouts from others? Yeah, that's big right there. This is the real reason the government doesn't want us checking out. They want to make sure the workforce remains replaceable. But once we all leave, they're going to have to start increasing how much they pay people. So Jia declined an interview request. Good on her. Her social credit wouldn't survive an interview. Guo, the writer in Dali, says he puts in more hours as a freelancer than he did at the newspaper, but he is happier and life is more comfortable. He and his wife eat breakfast on their breezy sixth-floor apartment balcony and with a view of trees. So this is actually another thing that unless you've ever done your own thing, like had your own company, a lot of people don't understand this. But entrepreneurs work a lot more than your average employee. Like you complain about 60 hours a week, the CEO may be working 100 hours a week. But the difference is the more effort they put in, they get visibly more results. If I spend 100 hours a week on my own personal projects, I get to reap almost all the benefits for myself. If I had to do 100 hours for my day job, all I get out of that is I get to continue getting the same paychecks I have been because I'm on a salary. I don't really have any motivation to do over 40 hours a week for my day job. But if it's for personal projects, the more time and effort I put into it, I can visibly see the results of that time and effort. As long as I can keep writing, I'm very satisfied, Guo said. I don't feel stifled. A handful who can afford it withdraw from work almost entirely. So you can do that with a lot less money than you think as long as you're willing to leave your country. A 27-year-old architect in Beijing said she started saving as a teenager to achieve financial freedom. That is genius. Yes. Yes. This is part of, you know what I say, cut your expenses. You don't have to also spend all the money you bring in. That's a mistake a lot of people make. Like they get a 20% raise and suddenly they up their spending by 20%. No, you should be cutting your spending as much as possible and either investing or saving the extra money so you can retire early. So like this woman, from last September when I saw all my savings had reached 2 million yuan or $300,000, I laid down, said the woman, who would only give the name Nana in an interview over her social media account. Nana said she turned down a job that paid $3,000 per month due to the long hours and what she saw as limited opportunities for creativity. I want to be free from inflexible rulers, said Nana. I want to travel and make myself happy. And if you save up, see, it doesn't seem like much, right? It's like, who can retire on $300,000? It all depends on where you go. She could move to the Philippines and easily retire on that $300,000. She never has to work again a day in her life. If she invests that money properly and then moves to a country like the Philippines, she never has to work again. Meanwhile, there's going to be people back in her home country who are making way more money, working 80 plus hours a week, not having any time to spend it all, having their bills eat up all of the money they do make. Who's really rich in that equation? All things people got to think about. You don't have to work yourself into an early grave. There comes a time when you can just check out early. You just have to be willing to leave your comfort zone. You got to be willing to leave your country even. Like the one guy in this article, all he had to do was move from the big city into a rural area in his own country and he was fine. But sometimes, depending on where you live, you may have to leave your country entirely. You got to be willing to do that. If you take the risk, you're going to have the freedom in the end. Yeah, people back home are going to be making way more money, but they're going to be miserable. Like this woman, she made the same choice I did, actually, turning down a job that paid real well because of the long hours. So the reason my boss has his job and I don't have his job is because I turned down an offer to get that job. The CEO of the company wanted to put me in that position. I declined it because it did not really appeal to me to get like a 20% raise, but a 300% increase in work and responsibilities. No, I'm sorry. I would rather spend all that extra time I would be wasting on the day job on personal projects. And so far, that decision has paid off real well.
Oh man, I am so excited to tell you guys right now that finally, after about a year of build-up and shilling, we have launched Blade Devil on Indiegogo, and so far it is doing so well thanks to awesome people like you. If you haven't backed it yet, then please check the links in the description and check out Blade Devil on Indiegogo. You will not be disappointed. Looking forward to seeing you there.